everybody, Allie here again. Welcome to Gerda Steiner Designs. We are going to be playing with some colored pencils today and some craft cardstock. Come on and join me. We're going to start off our coloring today with one of the Llamas, and we're going to use the female llama with the little wreath around her neck. She is so cute. She has the cutest eyelashes. Now I've printed my paper and I've actually put this through my color printer. It is a fairly thin cardstock. It's actually sawdust cardstock by Basil or Basil, however you pronounce it. And it goes through my printer pretty much with ease. So give different cardstocks a try through your own printer. Just be aware you may have issues with jamming, so you're gonna have to test it out. We're gonna start with a light white on our llama, and then we're going to add some color. Pencil crayons are a fairly inexpensive mode of coloring. So it's a great way to start out if you're a first-time colorist. And of course you don't have to go whole hog and go Prismacolor or Fabre Castells. These are Fabre Castells. These are Polychromos. Just the ones that you get from good old Walmart. Perfect. Give them a try. You'd be surprised how well you can get your inexpensive colored pencils to blend. So I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm just kind of skimming the top. The more textured your paper, the more irregularities you're going to have on your image. So for instance, if your paper is a little rougher or has more texture to it, you are going to get a little bit of a raised part, and that's going to pick up color. So be aware, test out your cardstocks with your colored pencils, because you never know, maybe you want a rougher texture. I mean, it'd be great for critters because you would get that natural bumpy textured texture to your critter. There we go. We've got a rough, I'm going to do a little bit in the ears too. You can layer all of these colors, so don't be afraid. Just be aware that when it gets to a waxy state, you can't apply more color. It won't blend and it won't stick. So be aware of how much pressure you're using and experiment. All right. I am going to pull in, we started with our white, and I'm going to pull in a brown ochre. And we're just going to kind of add the shadow parts to our llama. The other thing I did with printing this image is it's not actually in gray. I actually changed the color of the outline to a brown. I didn't want something too stark, so that's why I chose brown. It's a little softer, a little bit more natural on a critter, and that's why I chose brown versus leaving it black. But of course, it's to each his own, whatever tickles your fancy. So just slowly adding color, layer by layer. You can do a little, a lot, whatever you would like your animal to kind of pop out with. I'm just using my brown ochre, add some shading. And I can use, and this is really popular, you can go back to your white and use it as a blending tool, which is really cool. And depending on the artist, and you'll know yourself what kind of tip you like to use while coloring. Some people like a really fine tip. I vary. It just depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing something more detailed and I want a finer tip, then I will go back and sharpen my pencil, but not necessarily. So just putting a little shading where that wreath is going around her neck. The nice thing about pencils is that you can go back in and define all of those branches at a later date. So I'm going to bring in, let's see, this one is cream. And I'm just going to add a little bit more color to our white. Just kind of blending over top of our brown into our white, softening any edges so things don't look stark, or if I've got funny lines. And colored pencils sometimes take a little longer than, say, an alcohol marker, because you really do have to go over and over and layer to get a blended, more cohesive color or blended areas. So it does take a little bit of effort to get in there, but you know what? After all of that work, you'll look at your image and go, wow, that looks fantastic. And the nice thing with digital images is that, I mean, if you wanted to do 10 llamas, because you're making 10 llama cards, print out 10 llamas on one sheet of paper and away you go. It's a great use of a big piece of paper too, because if you've got to put it through the printer and then cut it up. Yeah. Okay, so she's coming along. I'm going to go in and add some more layers, and I'm going to turn on some music for a bit, and then we'll go back into the detail of the rest of the wreath. All right, enjoy. So I'm going to add some white to her eyes, white to the top of her mane, I guess you can call it. And I think I'm going to do a little bit darker on her nose. And away we go. Bring in a cinnamon color, just to add a little bit of rosiness to the insides of her ears. And remember, start with a light touch, and you can always go back and add more pressure to apply more pigment to the paper. It's always better to start off nice and soft and light, and not be too dark, because you don't want to be too dark if you don't want to go dark. I'm going to add a little touch of rosiness kind of to her upper cheeks. It's just so slight. Slight. There we go. She's starting to take shape here. All right, let's go into the detail of the wreath. So what you can do is start off with your lightest color. I'm gonna put some minty green, I think, in. So I'm gonna start off really light, and I'm going to follow the lines of the image and just lightly doodle in my evergreen branches here to start, because I'd like to apply a couple of different colors to get some depth on my greenery. I haven't forgotten about her eyelashes or her pupils or her eyebrows. I'm going to leave them to last because they are kind of like a finishing detail. So I haven't forgotten about them. They're still there. They're underneath all that color, but they're still there. Okay, that one was, sorry, light phthalo green. And I'm going to bring in a slightly darker version, which will be emerald green. I'm going to add more depth, a little bit richer color. Just going to do it here and there. Because when you look at an evergreen branch, it isn't all the same color. You have lights and darks, and some are a little bit bluer than the others, and some are greener than the others. So have a ball at layering all this fun color when you use your colored pencils. Coloring is all about going back to your childhood, I think. You know, just sitting down, maybe with some of your favorite music on, and just coloring. It doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to be accurate. Just sit down and color, just for the joy of adding color to something. This is why I love card making, because this is my favorite part of card making, is the coloring aspect and making an image my own. Okay, we're going to add some more color in here. I'm going to pull in, I always pull them upside down, dark phthalo green this time. The other one was a light, this one's dark. So I think we'll go towards the back of the image. Once again, I'm sort of following the image underneath. I'm not sticking to any particular kind of branch. I'm just going with the flow, just adding all my fun tree details in. And as you add more color, just know that it's harder to blend, and just know that you might have to work a little bit harder to apply color, just because you're going to have more and more buildup of that medium. Okay. But have fun. There we go, and I think I will find, believe it or not, I'm gonna go in with a blue. This one is cobalt. This one is cobalt. This one is cobalt turquoise. Apparently can't talk today. And this, of course, will just deepen some of those greens. So I think I'll just use it mainly for the stems. Add a little bit more depth. It just adds a pretty little festive-y color in there too. Evergreens are so pretty. Okay. I think we're looking pretty good. I think I'll bring in, I know I'm gonna say this again, I'm gonna bring in a classic bright green and just put a few touches of the bright green in there just to indicate maybe some new foliage, because evergreens come in a lighter green foliage when they're brand new on the tree. So once again, just playing, just hinting. There. That's looking good. And then now we have to decide what we're going to do our decorations, what colors we're going to use. I'd really like to go maybe non-traditional. Maybe we'll go for some pinks, believe it or not. All right, so to make everything cohesive, sometimes you use the same color somewhere else on your drawing to make everything work together. So I just put a touch of this same colored pink up into her ears. So I'm going to just kind of start by outlining. I want to leave a little bit of a highlight, like a reflection. So I'm going to leave it plain because I'm going to come in with a white, and I want it to be fairly stark. A little tiny bit of a crescent there. And I will continue on with the rest of my decorations, and I'll be right back. So I've got the decorations all colored in. I'm just going to add a little bit of a richer pink down to the bottom and blend it in. This one is fuchsia. And that'll just help add depth and dimension and a little bit richer color to those, so they stand out just a touch more than they did. So I'm just kind of adding a crescent to the bottom of them, kind of going lightly up into the circle, blending it just a touch. All right, we're looking good. Okay, just gonna add just an ever slight touch of this darker pink into her ears. We're gonna do her bell, and then we're pretty close to being finished. I do actually have, and I think we'll go gold. So I actually have, oh, sorry, this is copper. We're gonna do a copper bell. I'm just going to sharpen this first. I happen to use just a Statler sharpener, but you can use whatever you wish. I just find this one easy. I did buy myself a better quality one, but for some reason it didn't work out of the box. So yeah, lots of fun. So once again, we're going to add a little bit, oops, of a reflection mark kind of down the side of our bell, on the same side that we did for our ornaments. I don't know how metallic this is going to actually look in real life. It's not super metallic, even to my eye. So I can only imagine it doesn't even look metallic to you guys. Okay, so there's the bell. Now I am going to go back to the same brown that we used. I've got to sharpen this little fella. And I'm going to add just a dark edge to that bell so it just stands out a little bit better than with just the copper pencil on. Sorry, that was my elbow. And then I'm going to start darkening up any features that I want. So I am going to add a little bit more detail into her nose, darken that up. I'm going to darken just a bit under her cheeks. Typically you don't want to have lines, but it's completely up to you. You could have used some fine detailed stroke marks to get individual hairs. That would have looked really cool in this image. Would have come out really, really good. And you know what? I think I'm going to have to pull it in one darker shade than this. I am going to go with this more red. This is a burnt sienna, just so we can get more depth added into any of the fine details that we add. You don't have to outline it like a stamp would be. You might want to put a little bit more detail back in, because sometimes things get blended. There we go. I think I'm going to define her eyes a little bit better just so they stand out. Go in, come down her body. There we go. And I am going to put maybe some curly defined kind of loopy doopies in her top of her hair here. That's a nice thing about colored pencil. You can basically just go in and create some just very, very subtle, like curly cues. That's looking pretty good. I am going to define her mouth area just a touch more, and only on that side, just to give it a little bit more dimension, as if the sun is coming from this direction. She's got shadow on that side of her face. Now let's go in and do her pupils. I'm not going to pick a black per se, but a very, very dark gray. So this is Payne's gray. I'm just going to carefully go in with the Payne's gray and define those pupils back out. And of course you could go in with a marker, maybe something that has a really, really, really defined point on it. That would work really well for doing this detail. And I'm also going to put in her lashes again with that same Payne's gray. Just define her eyelid on that side a little bit more. This one I went over a little bit with my brown pencil crayon, but oh well. It is what it is. There we go. Maybe a little darken up her nostrils. Just a hint of gray just to deepen that. Just a hint of gray in the shadows. We'll just put a very, very light Payne's gray over her. Her eyebrows are so cute. And maybe just a touch on the bell just to bring it out. And maybe just use our Payne's gray to define our edges on our ornaments. Like I said, it's a process. And you could spend hours just on one fun little image. And here's our final card, guys. I just made a basic pattern paper of my own using the same colors in my wreath for the background. Printed out a sentiment on the same sawdust paper, and she's done. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you again. Thanks for watching.